we're going to move straight away to Ross Clark, author of Not Zero, because, of course, that is all the rage right now. We're talking about climate. COP29, Keir Starmer has just come back from it, promising to reduce our carbon emissions by 81%. Let's have a look at Ed Miliband saying, honestly, seriously, definitely, climate change is not a hoax.
Well, I don't believe it is a hoax.
No, but what do you say to...
Well, it's real. Just look at events in Spain. Look at the fact that we had 40-degree day in Britain 2 years ago. It's definitely, look at what's happening in the US. It's definitely happening. But, you know, the interesting thing, Alex, is it's definitely happening, and this transition is happening. And it's unstoppable. Look around this...
Well, we know about the transition, but is that the message you will, as a government, have to say to the incoming president?
No, the message for us is we're going to do what's in our national self-interest.
Of course we are. And what about Donald Trump? What's he going to do?
One of the most urgent tasks, not only for our movement, but for our country, is to decisively defeat the climate hysteria hoax.
The climate hysteria hoax. Ross, I mean, the truth of the matter is that we've had the last 3 days of the Taliban attending the COP29, but hardly any other major leaders of the world, apart from Keir Starmer.
Yes, well, that's it. Keir Starmer went out to Baku saying he's going to lead the world on climate change. Well, he's gone out there and found there's not actually much of a world to lead.
Right.
Joe Biden's not there. He's chosen to spend his time stumbling along a beach in Delaware instead. Macron's not there. Olaf Scholz
He's too busy driving around in the back of a Jeep in Paris.
Probably. So, you know, and Giorgia Meloni, Italian Prime Minister, she turned up to the conference, but she didn't actually turn up to a speaking slot this morning. Right. So, you know, it's
a bit of a hangover.
It's pretty clear that the rest of the world is not going to follow the self-sacrificial path which Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband want to take Britain on. They, you know, there are things going on in the world, you know, China invested in wind and solar electric cars and so on, but it is pretty clear that other countries are not going to compromise economic growth in the search for net zero. They're not going to do it, and least of all Donald Trump. So, you know, this whole sort of COP29 has become a bit of a charade. We've got the Azerbaijani, the chief executive of the Azerbaijani delegation, who's, you know, was called out the other day trying to use the occasion to cut oil and gas deals with foreign firms. The president this morning has said, described oil and gas as a gift from God. Quite clearly, the rest of the world is not on the same page as Ed Miliband, and you know,
thankfully.
Global carbon emissions, that's the other piece of news this morning. Global carbon emissions reached a new high last year. So, you know, we keep being told, oh, they're going to peak in 2020. No, they're going to peak in 2022. Right. No, they're going to peak. They still haven't peaked. You know, coal, gas, oil, the use of all these fuels is going up as developing countries try to develop their economies, enrich their people, and they are not going to suddenly say, oh, we're going to switch all to wind farms.
But we're saying it, and in the paper this morning, the Times this morning, they're basically saying, scientists are saying, well, there's no way to reduce carbon emissions by that big number of 81% unless you start eating less red meat, unless you start eating and consuming less dairy products, and unless you stop travelling.
Yes, this is Keir Starmer's new target, as if we didn't have enough already. 81% reductions on 1990 levels by 2035. And then he said, extraordinary, well, we're not going to tell anybody what they can do and can't do. Well, you know, put it this way, if Labour did manage to decarbonise electricity by 2030, which is a very big if, and extraordinarily difficult, and they're not going to do it. But if they could, you know, that would take about 11% of current emissions.
Yeah.
If you took out, closed down our remaining industry and agriculture, which Labour seem to be doing their best at the moment, that would take out another 25% of emissions. But you simply could not you know, get anywhere near Starmer's 81% target unless you, you know, severely reduce use of personal transport and also, you know, force people to rip out gas boilers.
Yeah, and stop flying anywhere and all sorts of things. But yeah, at the same time, Keir Starmer says, oh, but don't worry, we're not going to have any impact on your behaviour. We're not going to change the way that you live. Oh, really? Well, it doesn't sound like that to me. Ross, listen, we've got to run. Thanks very much indeed. Ross Clark, author of Not a Zero. Great book. Go and get one if you haven't got one already.